Review bombing was only the beginning. The Tekken community is in full-on revolt. That's because the initial developer response says that a balanced patch to the disastrous Season 2 release won't land until mid to late April. Content creators are changing their relationship with Tekken 8, fans are calling for a boycott, critics on Reddit might be getting blocked by developers, and some people are even trying to get back into Tekken 7.
The Tekken community has been pissed. I have never seen this amount of negativity in reaction to a balanced patch or update to a fighting game ever.
When we last covered Tekken, we talked about how Season 2's balance patch had failed to make defense better, as the developers had suggested. Instead, in an already aggressive game, they added a ton of new moves and 50-50 potential. There were marginal buffs to defensive options like sidestepping, but they were completely eclipsed by everything else. As an example, I offer you this jack string that's giving Tekken caster Chai the ability to play blindfolded with light verbal direction from friend Chipsy.
He's getting up. Keep going. He's gonna do 2-2-1. Nice, nice, nice. Run, run, run. Just do shit. Nice. It's all you, bro. Just get his ass. Got him. 7 golden letters, baby.
That jack string we showed you is just one more thing that needs to be changed, but it turns out that it's going to take a long time for it to get fixed. Bandai Namco did eventually make a statement saying that they are carefully reviewing the balance of the game and that we could expect more information soon. However, the patch was confirmed as landing in mid to late April. And game director Katsuhiro Harada made a statement of his own on Twitter, noting that the patch clearly missed the mark and that the teams were looking at the feedback around the clock to make future adjustments. The community is not happy about Season 2, and many have called for the patch to simply be reverted until it can be fixed. But since that is frankly pretty unlikely, they are even angrier about the timeline for the impending patch. And fans are showing their disappointment. The player base on Steam has also continued to decline since the initial spike from the patch's launch, not quite in all-time low territory for Tekken 8 yet, but trending in that direction. And this is pretty soon after a major content patch. So what do you do if you're a Tekken fan right now? Well, some fans have called for a Tekken 8 boycott, and a website encourages exactly that, with signups open to anyone. The website isn't perfect though, as content creator main man Swee's ID was supposedly submitted even though he isn't participating. They've now made it possible to have your ID removed if you didn't actually submit it. Now, if these names are all real and none of them are playing the game, there are more total people actively boycotting Tekken 8 than there are simultaneous players on Steam for much of the day. Not everyone is necessarily in favor of a formal boycott though. Spag made the point that the message to the developers has already been well sent via the review scores, for example, and that the boycott feels extraneous. Still, other fans want to go back to Tekken 7, the game that really helped this game explode in popularity. Now, Tekken 7 had plenty of issues with balance over its lifetime, but in its general philosophy, it often erred in the opposite direction from Tekken 8. Defensive options were good, infinite stages existed, and there were lots of high-tier, whiff-punishing characters, so there were times where players struggled to commit to bigger buttons and instead went for small Tekken play. So far, while there is an increase in the Tekken 7 player base, it's capping out around 1,000 or 1,100 peak users, with a growth trend over the past couple of days. Worth keeping an eye on for sure, but not quite a schism worthy of Counter-Strike's source. As for pro players and content creators, many of them are trying to figure out what to do. FeeDX, for example, gave his stream a fun moment after his Steve Fox victory.
5 bucks fires! Oh my god! My game!
And if you've seen this clip on my second channel, you know that I alt F4 at that point, neglecting to collect my ranked points because I was so unhappy with the gameplay required to get there.
Fee went on to say that he's stepping back from Tekken 8 in a competitive sense. He will still mess around with the game, but his argument as to why he won't compete is very interesting.
If I were to learn the Season 2 style, it would be a pretty hard commitment, and it would be pretty hard to go back, right? Once I have learned this way, I would have to spend time unlearning it as well. So for that reason, I'm not going to be focusing on competing in Season 2.
This is a damning and effective argument. The Tekken we now have is just unrecognizable from the kind that helped this game reach its biggest audience ever. That means practicing it is, for some people, pointless. Main man Sui, another one of the game's biggest content creators, isn't quitting Tekken 8, but he is starting to try Street Fighter 6 alongside it.
I watched Street Fighter 6 and I was like, you know what, we got such issues with Tekken right now, but I'm gonna try Street Fighter again.
For competitors, Tekken World Tour is supposed to open in the second week of May. Even if the patch launches a week from now, that leaves precious little time to adapt to whatever changes happen in the patch. And on top of that, we have every reason to believe that the changes won't represent a substantial overhaul of the combat system, given the timing and the massive size of Season 2 generally. All of this frustration with the developers, particularly the tight messaging control and ensuing silence, has started to boil over too. Of course, it's at this point that we should also note developers are human beings with demanding jobs, and harassing them isn't okay. The last stop on our tour of Tekken's recent pandemonium is the deepening criticism of the development team at Bandai Namco, particularly since communication has been sparse. Redditors noticed that the only reply on Twitter by producer Michael Murray was to positive feedback on the patch instead of a critical viewpoint, and they seized on that, making a thread about it. Meanwhile, most pro feedback has been pretty constructive. There are a lot of frustrated players whose livelihoods depend on this game, so I think it's fair that some of them are emotional. But maybe because there was a sense of blood in the water, things got even crazier. On a group call this past weekend, content creator Frame Whisperer claimed that he'd heard secondhand that Tekken caster Spag had been told by Bandai Namco to delete a tweet about Fakum Ram back in Tekken 7. Spag cleared the air on Tuesday, saying it was all false, the tweet was in fact still up today, and that he wasn't going to feed into the drama. On Tuesday, the subreddit again posted about Murray after a user discovered that he'd been blocked by the Tekken 8 producer on Twitter despite never having interacted with him. One theory was that he blocked anyone on the subreddit who criticized the game and who had their Twitter account linked to Reddit. The cases so far seem to fit this pattern. Even if true, this isn't exactly a crime. It's not even really a hostile act, though it might feel that way to some people. And maybe Murray really does feel the need to block people in order to be able to use Twitter properly. Unfortunately, it's also led to a lot of jokes about blocking. You know, given the whole focus on defense thing. But for passionate fans looking for a glimmer of hope here, this just feels like more evidence still that the developers are not listening. And to end off, we can go back to a post made by Harada before fans got their hands on the patch. We've played the updated game now, so when will we get some idea of how the community's concerns will be addressed? There is an unprecedented consensus that this patch needs improvements. And if fans can't be trusted that they'll be heard, if the discussion can't even be started, what hope is there?
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and ring the notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.